All right, so thanks for joining us today. How are things treating you in Chicago?
Oh, Chicago's great. Loving it. We've been walking around the city, looking at architecture. It's been beautiful. The festival's been fantastic. We've had great crowds, engaged crowds. The technical on the films with big, beautiful screens with wonderful audio, so you really can't ask for much more.
Now, is this your first trip to the Chicago International Film Festival?
Yes, first time at Chicago International.
How honored were you to have the film selected?
Oh man, it's a huge honor. I mean, it's like a really, really old festival, very prestigious, and you know, just the idea that Chicago is like kind of the preeminent architecture city in the country, and so the idea that we would be screening in Chicago for our world premiere, it was a tremendous honor, and it's been working out great so far, for sure.
Now, how'd you get interested in making a documentary on the Minnesota Experimental City?
So I started the Experimental City because I was interested in a topic called retrofuturism. So this was the idea of what people in the past used to think that the future would look like. And in the process of that, I learned about this guy named Athelstan Spielhaus, who was a comic strip writer. And he had a comic called Our New Age. But in addition to being a comic strip writer, he's also a scientist, an inventor, and he was the founder of an idea called the Minnesota Experimental City. And I'm originally from Minnesota. I was born there, lived my first 12 years of my life there. And so this immediately struck a chord, like, what in God's name is the Minnesota Experimental City? And so looked it up, and it just sounded incredible. It was this futuristic city where it's going to have a dome over it, mile-wide dome in some cases. It was going to be a constantly changing city, and so it just kind of immediately captured my attention. And then once I began to learn more and more about the drama that fell out of the attempted creation of this city, it just really sucked me in.
So, the original city to be under the dome?
Yes, I believe so. It may have been the first proposed city of its scale to actually come even somewhat close to being built.
Before Stephen King wrote the book?
Absolutely, yeah. We're talking like 66, 67. So absolutely before Stephen King was right.
Because I was reading about it online, and I was surprised to see it was planned to be a nudist colony.
No, it was not.
Well, then someone had Wikipedia wrong.
Yeah, no. I think that was one of those rumors that was floating around. I've listened to a lot of audio of steering committee. That proposition is just so absurd. It's tough to keep it straight. I've listened to a lot of steering committee audio, 200 hours, and never once did any sort of nudity was it discussed in any shape or form. So the idea of the entire city being a nudist colony it's news to me.
Well, that's where they had a wiki. So 200 hours. How did you edit that down to just about, an hour and a half?
Yeah, about an hour and a half-ish. Yep. Well, it takes a long time. I mean, you have to go through and you have to identify the things that are meaningful. I mean, the real problem with 200 hours isn't so much the initial pass-through of 200 hours. It's like keeping it categorized, because if you hear something, 20 hours in, and you don't know where that's at, you got to go find that. Right, so you got to make sure that everything that is even remotely usable, you've got bookmark and catalog, so you don't have to go through the entire thing again. So I think that's the real biggest challenge, is like making sure that you aren't killing yourself later on trying to find this one clip that you heard forever ago. Spending all that time to go back. So it's just like it's a logistical kind of management challenge more than anything else, dealing with that audio. It's great though. It's a great problem to have, because a lot of documentary filmmakers, they have very little. And we started off this project not knowing that 200 hours was there, and so it was, like a kid with Christmas, with getting the awesome Christmas gift, finding 200 hours of audio of actual, like Bucky Fuller talking about it, Athelstan Spielhaus, they're all talking about it, and so I always viewed it as a positive, because you have a lot of choice for how you can kind of shape the story. But yeah, logistically, it's a challenge for sure.
Now, from start to finish, how long did it take to work on Experimental City?
It was about 3 years from now we started. And so there was a pre-production process where we kind of going through story development and seeing, do we really want to make this thing? We finally committed in February of 2015, I believe. Yeah, February of 2015, we said, okay, we're going to make this. And we started going to archives, digging through archives, and started performing interviews at that time. And so it's been about 2.5 years solid straight, me working full-time, 50 hours a week to get it done. And you know, it's been a big effort for sure, but it's nice to finally see the finish line for sure. I know my wife likes that.
And how'd you get interested in filmmaking?
I saw a movie called JFK when I was about 15, 16 years old by Oliver Stone. That was the movie that kind of acted. And it was the first time that I noticed filmmaking as something that... It was the first time I noticed that there was a creator there. You know, it kind of draws attention to itself with its style. And so it makes sense that that would be something that, you know, I was like, oh, well, there are people actually doing this. For some reason, I just never even thought of, like, you know, like, I thought I was going to be an engineer, an architect, or something like that. But, like, when I saw that film, I was like, oh, wait, there's people actually doing that, and I guess I could be one of those people. You know, that hadn't dawned on me before that point. And so then, you know, it's kind of a cool thing to say to yourself that you're going to be a filmmaker, you know, when you're in high school, and it's a cool thing to tell people. And so, like, eventually you kind of get trapped into... by telling enough people that, you kind of trapped yourself, oh, I got to follow through with it. And so, you know, by the time I was 23, 24, I think I was ready and in a position to make my first film, and so I made it. But it all springs back from Oliver Stone's JFK, and, you know, that's it's one of the most beautiful, even to this day, one of the most beautiful jobs of editing I've ever seen, and I consider myself an editor at heart. And so there's something about that film that I think I still hold inside me, and that spoke to me very much at the time.
All right, thanks again, and congrats on the premiere.
Cool, thank you much.